Hello, this is Representative Pam Powers Hanley. Welcome to my podcast, A View from the Left Side. For many years in the Arizona House, my seat was on the far left side of the chamber. As a progressive Democrat and one of the most independent representatives in the House, I always believed that was a fitting seat for me. This podcast features in-depth interviews with newsmakers from all walks of life, as well as political and social commentary. Thanks for joining me on the left side today. Now it's time for some good trouble. This week's View from the Left Side commentary. This week's podcast focuses on the current state of politics in Arizona. It was recorded during the week of August 16, 2021. The United States is about 15 months out from the November 2022 election. At this juncture, there is a lot of drama going on in this country and in the state of Arizona. Social media is awash with lies, conspiracy theories, outrage memes, and anti-science rhetoric on multiple topics. Mainstream news outlets like the New York Times, National Public Radio, and AZ Central attempt to point out factual inaccuracies, but it is next to impossible to keep up with the volume when the liars include the former president, his personal attorney, and many elected officials. There is a segment of the Republican Party that refuses to accept the results of the November 2020 election. President Joe Biden's win in Arizona and the involvement of several Arizona elected officials in the Stop the Steal movement and the January 6th insurrection put our state in the vortex of the manufactured 2020 election controversy. For months, Arizona Senate President Karen Fann and Senator Warren Peterson have drawn out the discredited audit of Maricopa County ballots by the cyber ninjas. The nation is watching as fraudit volunteers examine actual paper ballots to look for bamboo threads and watermarks and to follow up on election conspiracy theories. Meanwhile, millions of dollars is pouring in from outside sources to support these efforts and copycat efforts in other states to discredit fair elections that were audited multiple times. The Fann and Peterson fraudit is a dangerous game. As if attacks on voting and democracy weren't enough to deal with, the COVID-19 Delta variant is running wild in science-denying, open-for-business red states like Arizona. Multiple effective COVID-19 vaccines are available for free to anyone 12 years old or older, but far too many Americans have decided not to get vaccinated. This has stymied efforts to achieve a 70% nationwide vaccination rate and herd immunity. Nationwide, only 51% of Americans are fully vaccinated. In Arizona, 47% are fully vaccinated. Vaccinated and unvaccinated Americans have been enjoying a gradual return to dining out, having parties, going on dates, and getting hugs. To say the least, we, the vaccinated, are pretty upset with the unvaccinated laggards who are freely infecting each other with the COVID-19 Delta variant and causing another huge and totally preventable wave of the pandemic. They are putting not only themselves and their families at risk for disease and stressing out the medical system, they are putting our young children and grandchildren at risk for COVID-19. The unvaccinated have chosen to believe the misinformation and conspiracies about COVID-19, face masks, and vaccines, rather than believe in the importance of public health and the clear evidence that COVID is deadly and that vaccines are safe and effective. Currently, Arizona is seeing approximately 3,000 new COVID cases per day. By far, most of the hospitalized and the dying are unvaccinated people. As Republicans wrangle over the 2020 election and face masks, groups of grassroots activists are busily circulating petitions to stop several bad bills that were passed by Republican legislators and signed by the governor. The goal is to garner enough signatures to stop these laws from going into effect now. The process would allow voters to decide in the 2022 election if they want preemption of local control regarding mask and vaccine mandates, if they want a flat tax to benefit the rich, if they want an alternative tax that allows business owners to avoid the Prop 208 invest in ed fee, if they want to protect early voting and mail-in ballots, and much more. In addition, multiple lawsuits are being filed against the state of Arizona because of unjust or unconstitutional laws passed by Republicans in 2021. Arizona is at the precipice. The decisions we make today about the pandemic, about our democracy, and about our government will have long-lasting ramifications. Given this tumultuous climate, the 2022 election will be a wild ride. A surprising number of people have filed statements of interest to run for office in Arizona in 2022. Plus, redistricting of legislative and congressional districts before the election adds another level of uncertainty to the political climate. I see both challenges and opportunities for Democrats and progressives in the future. We must choose wisely and work hard in order to prevail in 2022. Arizona would have a completely different government and a different future for our children if Democrats took over the governor's office and took the legislature for the first time in decades. In my opinion, this is the perfect time to start a political podcast and report on the action. Welcome to the premiere episode of A View from the Left Side. My guests today are two long-term friends and colleagues of mine at Blog for Arizona, Michael Bryant and Larry Bodeen. Mike is the founder and managing editor of Blog for Arizona. He is a local attorney and served as a prosecutor for the city of Tucson. Larry is president of Democrats of Greater Tucson and has been a writer and editor at Blog for Arizona for many years. Larry is also an attorney by profession and a former newspaper reporter. I asked Mike and Larry here to be my guests today because between the three of us, we have written hundreds, if not thousands, of news articles and commentaries about politics, policy, and current events. As I said in my introduction, loads of people, perhaps more than 200 people, have expressed interest in running for office in Arizona in 2022. This is a crucial election on many fronts. All this, and we have redistricting. Mike and Larry, what do you think about the state of politics in Arizona as the 2022 election approaches? Mike, why don't you go first as managing editor of Blog for Arizona?
Hi, Pam. Thanks for having us. Yeah, I got to say, as Clinton might say, Hillary Clinton might say, the state of politics in Arizona is deplorable. It's a very odd set of sequences that have led to, the fraudit, the Arizona fraudit, the cyber ninjas, and their exploration of our voting machines and ballots. That's what the entire Republican Party has done, in my view. They see the threat of Donald Trump, and they're just cycloning around him in order to not be targeted individually. And so, it makes sense for each individual politician to go all in on Trump's nonsense and lies and disinformation. But as a party, they're circling around the drain because they're taking positions that are absolutely unpopular with voters here in Arizona and across the country. Being anti-mask and anti-vaccine, most Americans are not down with that. Being hooked on this idea of the 2020 election being stolen, most Americans reject that, and that seems to be the heart of what their ideology is right now, just, supporting Donald Trump no matter what craziness comes out of his mouth. And American voters have already spoken. They don't want Donald Trump. They don't want him back. They don't want him in 2020. They don't want him in 2024. They don't want anybody who supports him in 2022. And so their strategy is just insane, literally insane. The party has gone crazy.
Well, I agree with all the points that Mike made. And I would add the fact that we're at an inflection point. I think the long line of Republican victories is going to come to a close. I see some big changes coming in statewide offices, a strong likelihood that the legislature may be on parity, Democrat and Republican, or perhaps flipped. And for a lot of the points that Mike raised, the Republican platform, and I get this, I get their platform from what their candidates put on their website, is completely out of touch with what the voters want. They're talking about the Second Amendment and more guns and voting, election security, which is just another way to say voter suppression. They want to build the wall. They don't want masks. They're throwing out all these bumper sticker terms like, socialism and cancel culture, and don't turn Arizona into California. And these are all sort of paranoid positions that I don't think impresses the general public, because all the research I've done shows that what the voters are interested in is supporting public education. They want access to health care. They want to create new jobs. They want to protect the environment, fight climate change, and they want immigration reform. It was a survey of Arizona public values that expressed this is what the voters are interested in, and it reflects perfectly what the Democratic candidates are saying on their websites and what they're campaigning for. I look forward to 2022. I think it's going to be a big, noisy, messy election, but I see big changes ahead for the good.
Yeah, I think that there is a lot of risk and a lot of opportunity because there are many special interest groups, probably on both sides of the aisle, that are looking to put money and boots on the ground, probably in the state of Arizona. We already have, lots of disinformation on social media. And so I think that, we're, as voters, we're going to really have to be vigilant and, get to know these candidates and really dig down deep on some of these things. Because as you say, what the Republicans have been doing in the legislature is not aligned with what most of the people in the state of Arizona want. For example, we had a big vote against expansion of empowerment scholarships, school vouchers. And what did the Republicans do? They pushed for school vouchers. That's one of the things they stuck in the budget that wasn't going to pass. Another thing that the voters want is like control of the student tuition organizations. And in order to get Shauna Bullock on the budget, they put her failed STO expansion bills into the budget. We also, there's all sorts of groups out there, circulating petitions to stop laws that we passed or the Republicans passed in 2021 from becoming law and allow the voters to vote on them. We also, on the other side of the coin, we have big groups who are suing the state. The Democrats said this. We said the people don't want this. The people don't want you to take away early voting. They don't want you to hurt the permanent early voting list. They don't want you to, go after teachers if they say the wrong word and, fine them $5,000. All that stuff is in the budget. We're getting sued over all of it. And so it's a very clear indication that the legislature, the Republicans in the legislature are not providing the citizens what they want when we're getting sued, right?
Yeah, but they're spitting directly in the eye of the voters by undermining Prop 208. I don't remember the exact percentage by which that passed, but the majority of Arizona voters wanted that. That was their priority, was to fund education. And Ducey and the Republican legislature just spat in their eyes and said, no, we're not going to give it to you. And it's as if they're so desperate to follow their base that they are willing to alienate the rest of us.
Well, they are kowtowing to the Chamber of Commerce. The flat tax benefits the rich. The alternative tax that allows small business owners to not pay the 208 fee benefits the rich. That benefits like just a few thousand people. So, they are obviously, going against the will of the voters with the ESA expansion and Prop 208.
But I think undermining Prop 208 is the key example that shows that the Republican legislatures and Ducey just have no regard for what the voters want. I mean, undermining Prop 208, which was designed to fund public schools, they just slapped the face right in the voters and just said, no, we're not going to do this. We're going to change the tax laws so that it'll actually drain funds for public education. And That's not where the voters of Arizona are. They want public education supported. They don't want any, they're not interested in vouchers and all sorts of special tax breaks for, the 1%.
Yeah. Oh, it's even smaller than the 1%. So yeah, it's just awful. The other thing that I read in the yellow sheet, and you guys probably heard this too, was that the city of Phoenix is going to sue the state because there were something like 10 criminal justice items that didn't pass the legislature that got stuck in the budget. The Republicans are getting dinged on the single subject rule, and when you put 10 different bills to a budget and they're not actually budget related, that's, stretching the rules a bit. And so I was really surprised at that because criminal justice reform is definitely something that the people of Arizona are interested in. I've been in the legislature for 5 years. For 5 years, we have had lots and lots of effort to reform sentencing and reform the prison system. A lot of it has gone nowhere. And it was really disheartening to see that they stuck these other things in secretly into the budget, And so you guys both being lawyers, you have a comment on that?
Those reforms, so-called, are minimum mandatories. They're not the kind of reform that they can work with Democrats, who would be more than happy to work with them on criminal reform. That's not a problem, but they just are not interested in that. I think probably the sponsor of that bill is interested in running for attorney general.
The other point too is that what the legislature did with Prop 208 and all these tax reforms violates the Arizona Constitution. I mean, it says real clearly that the Arizona legislature cannot repeal a successful initiative, and they cannot amend the law in any way except a way that furthers the purposes of the initiative. And that's exactly what they've done. They've just disregarded the Constitution and gone ahead and ignored it.
Well, they've gotten used to that. And they've gotten used to getting away with it. It's the same thing with the single subject rule that they're being sued over with the budget. If nobody pushes back on them, and nobody does, and there's a hand-picked, stacked court in the Arizona Supreme Court, who's gonna tell them no? And so they figure they'll get away with it. Yeah, voters are the only ones who can discipline them.
I think that's why they like to push these lawsuits, they figure at some point they're going to win these, and they have won some, which is disheartening, in the past. So what do you think about Ducey's doubling down on the anti-mask and anti-vaccine, by trying to bribe school systems into putting their kids at danger? What do you guys think about that?
I call it performative stupidity. I mean, he's been sort of riding the coattails of Abbott in Texas and that moron in Florida, and he's competing with these guys. He wants the nomination for president in 2024, and he knows these guys are his competition. And he's just been riding their coattails, doing the same things that they're doing, and it's not been working for him in the national press. So what has he done? He stepped outside and found something even more cruel, stupid, and illegal to do that will get the attention of the Republican base. And that's the result of this. And he's going to get sued every which way from Sunday. And probably the COVID funds, which he's drawing from to make these threats to stop school districts from stopping the spread of COVID, are coming directly from COVID relief funds.
Just that it illustrates once again his total disregard for public opinion. Something like 21 school districts have already decided, no, we're going to have mask mandates. City of Tucson also said we're going to require employees to get vaccinations, and that Ducey's executive order forbidding it really doesn't apply. There's no solid law behind it. You got to remember, the public is out there reading headlines that say that the intensive care units are now filling up, and that all the people in the hospital are people who are unvaccinated. You just can't disregard reality.
Well, the biggest irony, I think, is that, Ducey was in a good position, first 6 years of his term, to run as handmaid to the oligarchy for president. He is a corporate drone. He's bland as the day is long. He has very little real, political talent, in my view. And he treats every emergency like a PR problem, like it's a corporate communication issue that he needs to just get through instead of actually doing the work. I call him do nothing Ducey, because he's proven during the COVID emergency that he just really doesn't have any leadership skills. He did nothing. He let Arizona become the hotspot of COVID infections in the world, not just in the United States, in the world twice. And he's doing it again.
Third time's the charm, Mike. Third time's the charm.
He could have run on his competency. He could have run for president on his competency, his money, the basis that he will serve the interests of the oligarchy faithfully. But no, he's chasing this chimera of the Trump base being the key to the nomination. And he's leaving behind the lane that's wide open right now, which is a competent leader who can actually manage the federal government in the interest of the oligarchy. He's abandoned that position. And in my view, he would have been much better off running as that candidate for the GOP nomination.
Well, don't underestimate him. He's a spawn and a creature of the Koch brothers, or the Koch brother, have tens of millions of dollars to invest in Ducey. And he's gone to all their conferences. They want to see a return on their investment.
Mm-hmm.
So,
anti-worker laws, anti-consumer laws, laws that suppress the vote. That's what the Koch brothers want. And
but they also want somebody competent.
So what do you guys think about governor? We have, lots of people, more than 20 people put in a statement of interest to run for governor.
The Democrats have some fantastic candidates. That's one of the reasons I feel optimistic about 2022. For starters, Katie Hobbs, Secretary of State, running for governor. She's a superstar. She's really well known. She's got 8 years in the state House and the Senate. And, she is just itching to torpedo the fraudit the moment that the report comes out, which she's been calling a grift and a scam on national TV. And my favorite quote by her is that our state is being run by conspiracy theorists. And she's certainly leading the pack in fundraising. And there's a couple of other Democratic candidates to keep an eye on. Aaron Lieberman, 4 years in the House. He's all in favor of increasing jobs, supporting public education, renewable energy, access to healthcare. These are all the things that the voters care about. And then, by the way, he will be speaking at Democrats of Greater Tucson on September 13, and everybody's invited to attend that. Sort of rounding out the Democratic candidates, there's Marco Lopez, who was mayor of Nogales and was the former Arizona Department of Commerce secretary. So
heard of him referred to as the Hispanic Buttigieg.
Yeah. So the Democratic candidates are awesome, and Mike, I'll let you talk about the Republican candidates, which is sort of a halfway between a clown circus and a caricature.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, Ken, but it's pretty clear that leader of the pack is Carrie, Crazy Carrie, I call her. She is just so much like Trump. It's not even funny. She's gonna run away with this thing, in my view, on the Republican side. She has a wonderful camera presence from 10 years, 20 years in broadcast. She knows how to work a crowd. She knows exactly what to say to get the base all riled up. And she is saying all the right things for Donald Trump to give her a great big disgusting bear hug. So I expect that the race, although we have some flying other candidates, if they don't catch fire in some way, I expect the race is going to be Carrie Lake versus Secretary Hobbs, and it could go either way, which is really scary. Normally, I would say somebody like Carrie is, not somebody who the voters are going to resonate with, because she is really extreme in her views. But Trump has taught us one thing, in that if you get the Republican nomination, you can win, especially in a state that's as closely divided as Arizona, and a country as closely divided as the United States.
About Carrie Lake is, she's a conspiracy theorist. She's connected with QAnon.
And so is Kelly Ward, the chairman of the Republican Party in Arizona. Don't forget. So these are not disqualifiers. These are qualifications you're saying there, Larry.
Well, but then on the other hand, Kelly Ward was chair of the in 2020 of the Republican Arizona Party, and that was the year the state went for Biden.
Yeah. Oh, she's a failure. No doubt about it. She's a failure. All along, I've been saying that if the Republican Party weds itself to Trump, which they seem intent to do. They're going to lose waste. They're going to lose races. That's all there is to it. They're going to lose Senate races. They're going to lose statewide races. They're going to lose the legislature. But in the meantime, those candidates are very, very viable in the primaries and even scarily viable in the general election.
Katie Hobbs is going to clobber her.
Yeah, it's really interesting because at that big Turning Point meeting a couple of weeks ago, Carrie Lake was celebrated. They had that picture of her striding across the stage, with laps behind her. And then Senator Michelle Ugenti-Rita was booed off the stage. Now, the idea that Ugenti-Rita is not extreme enough is pretty scary,
Secretary of State nomination is probably dead in the water. Because she recognized a tiny bit of reality regarding the fraudit, and that's unacceptable.
Well, and she's the poster child for voter suppression in Arizona. She was the one who introduced the bill that gutted the permanent early voter list.
Absolutely.
Saying,
there's nothing good about Ugenti-Rita, but she did recognize reality in saying that the audit by the cyber ninjas is nonsense and a fiasco. She's right about that, and the base hates her for it.
Right, and she also had that little knife fight with Kelly Townsend over some of their bills, and then they had a tit for tat where they were voting against each other's voter suppression bills. Like, my voter suppression bill is better than your voter suppression bill. It's like, come on. That's one thing. The voters never asked for them to take away their vote, and that's what I'm really concerned in. And I think that's one of the things that they are banking on, is that we might get a turnout, but with all the changes they've made to the system, that they're gonna be able to rig it.
Well, my biggest fear isn't that a crazy person becomes governor of Arizona, which is possible. My biggest fear is that a crazy person from the QAnon right becomes Secretary of State in Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
So have you guys looked at the people running for Secretary of State? Because most of them I don't know. The only ones I know are the Democrats and the ones who have been in the legislature, like Mark Fincham and Ugenti-Rita. And then on the Democrat side, Adrian Fontes and Reginald Bodeen. And then there's a couple of miscellaneous other people. There's another libertarian, I think, in the Secretary of State mix. And so that'll be an interesting one. And with Fontes and Bodeen, I think both of those guys would be great, And so that's going to be a hard choice, I think, for Democrats, but because they both have their pros and cons,
Maricopa Recorder, though, Adrian Fontes has a great deal of experience. So I would... I'm going to be voting for Fontes. Yeah. I really admire the way he stood up for voters in Maricopa County.
He did, and I was really sad that he lost. Also, he's got Sheila Healy working for him. Remember Sheila Healy? She was the executive director for the Arizona Democratic Party a few years ago. She's also worked for Obama and Bernie, and she's working for Fontes. She is really a sharp organizer. So that's going to be a race. Bodeen and Fontes, that's going to be a big race.
Yep. Fontes is also riding the demographic change in the country and in Arizona. He's the first Latino to hold a countywide office in Maricopa County ever. So he's got a lot of things going for him. But I wouldn't discount Reginald Bodeen as a candidate for Secretary of State. He was in the Arizona House he's been in it for 7 years.
And
he's going to be speaking at DGT on September 20, and he heads up the two largest Black-led voting rights organizations. One is Our Voice, Our Vote, and the other one is the Arizona Coalition for Change. So here's another candidate who's got a high profile, a lot of experience, is leading the way for minority community involvement.
So who do you think on the Republican side is going to get that nomination? You guys want any predictions between Fincham and Ugenti-Rita? And I don't remember who else is on that list for the Republicans. Shauna Bullock, yes.
My guess would be either Bullock or, God forbid, Fincham. But either one would be a disaster. Shauna Bullock, she's absolutely a creature of the right. She's, obviously the wife of one of our Supreme Court judges, and she has no scruples about, screwing over voters in order to get the results that she wants. So, she's dropped voter suppression bills herself. Even a bill to actually take away the power of deciding presidential electors from Arizona's voters and giving it to the legislature. I mean, my God, let's go back to the 18th century, shall we?
We're going to have to sign off now. It's been fun. I'd like to have you guys come back again, and think it's going to be fun. I'd like to get into some good trouble with this podcast, and I hope you guys will, come and talk some dirt with me again someday. Okay.
So much more to discuss.
Thanks so much for tuning in to A View from the Left Side today. If you enjoyed the show, please consider liking this podcast on social media and becoming a subscriber. This is Representative Pam Powers Hanley signing off. Until next time, please take care of yourself, stay healthy, and stay vigilant.